Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 diesel. Oh, it's not a diesel, it's a V6. Everybody loves seeing the V6, the 4-litre V6 petrol. First problem we see, the garden. The garden's in the vehicle. Pop the bonnet about once a week and give that a clean up, because if you let all that accumulate in there, it all rots away. A couple of things can happen. It'll go down, get into your heater system, could get in your fan, make noisy fan. You know, it can get down in between cracks where water's meant to drain through, block up the hole so it fills up with water, causes problems, causes rust and all that sort of thing. So keep that clear. Regularly open your bonnet. If you've got to park outside underneath, open up that bonnet and clear it all out regularly. Now I'll give you a bit more of a look. See, it's pretty boring, but there's the fresh leaves. And in there, see, that's the stuff that's starting to rot away and turn to dirt, if you like, and marinate and help the vehicle rust away. So similar sort of things can happen down there, so you want to make sure you give that a wash out as well. So you can see all the dirt there from probably the previous trips, and that needs a bit more water down there to rinse that out. But we're going to have a look around this V6, 230,000 Ks ish, and yes, it's on gas as well, so actually drives pretty good. So you wouldn't actually really know it's on gas from that, you know, just a small road test I just did. We're going to check it out. There's a couple of customer complaints about the way it drives. From what I've heard so far, I suspect wheel alignment or tyre issues, or a combination from the wheel alignment that's probably not right. And we're going to check out all the suspension components thoroughly to make sure they're not an issue, and if they are, we'll let you know what they are. How's that for dedication? The Oz Prado crew sticker on the paintwork. That is permanent. All right, starting at the front, we'll have a bit of a look. Have a look at this radiator. That's in awesome condition. Has this been replaced, this radiator? Yeah, that'd be why. So got the nod, it has been replaced. And if you're not careful, it'll get replaced again. Once again, aftermarket recovery points. I'm gonna say it again. They're only as strong as the bolts. This steel here, you got the verniers there. From memory, it's about 18 millimeters diameter, if not 16. 360-degree welds around both sides. These points are not welded onto the front of the vehicle, see, welded at the back as well for tie-down points. That is incorrect, but you've got to remember the whole chassis here, what it's welded to, up here and up here, is only approximately 2 millimeters thick, maybe a little bit thicker in some places. If you pull either of these 2 points hard enough, you'll tear the front off the vehicle is what will happen. The positive of the welded point is you can go a little bit to the side, and it's not going to do any damage, where sideways on these ones with the bolts might not end up too good. And the bolts, see where it comes through the nut, you've got about a 2 to 3 millimeter clearance between the nut and the radiator at that side, but with a bit of movement in the vehicle, there's a chance it can rub. I reckon I can even see a rub mark in there, which is why you need more clearance. And if you have a look at this side here, it's rubbing. The bolt recovery point's rubbing on the radiator, so if these, I guess, aren't removed, it could end up with another radiator sooner rather than later, but that's why the radiator looks good, because by this sort of age, it's an 06, you may see a bit of corrosion and this, or a lot of dirt. This looks very clean. So there's one little thing for you to keep an eye on with your aftermarket accessories. There's some other things that can cause problems with rubbing on the radiator as well, so you know the deal. Subscribe, turn the bell on so you don't miss it. These Dobinsons have been here for a little while now, a few years. What was it, about 3 years or something probably? So yeah, no leaks on those. These are the old twin tubes. A lot of people used to use those. A lot of people have moved on to the mono tubes, particularly at the front. So they're looking pretty good. Other than I can see the dust boot at the top. See the plastic dust boot? Looks like for some reason that's broken away. So not a big deal. It's just a token gesture, not much. The seals on these are awesome anyway. You can see it should be up the top there like that. The usual on the rack, you know, the little sweat, not to worry about that. You're going to see similar probably at this side maybe. Fairly dry at that side. There's no play in any of the rack ends, tie rod ends. The drive shaft boots and everything are all good like usual. No leaks, no deterioration, even though it's 16 years old if I can add up. 16 years old, so everything up here looks pretty good at the front, other than that bolt rubbing on the radiator. Bash plates, we've got a bit of, what have we got in here? What sort of dirt that is? That's interesting. Where are you? That looks like Anglesey. Anyway, these control arm bushes, the front ones, you can see they're a little bit minced in there. That's normal. And the rear, you can see the split. If you follow it from the left side there where the split starts, across to, you know, basically that's about Look, you know, that's probably almost 50% actually, now that I have a closer look at it. Almost 50% split. You're going to see a mirror image over this side usually. Oh, there it is coming through. That one might be the one that's more like 30 or 40. So look, they're due, it's 230k. We say about 250, but don't change them by kilometres. You've got to check your vehicle with this one. No turbo up there to look at because it's a V6. No oil leak, so this is a good example of a no oil leak one. We've just got a bit of grease on the bell housing there. Some of them have oil leaks, some don't. Keep the regular oil changes. I recommend 5,000k oil changes. You don't have to do the filter then, but the oil is what I highly recommend if you want to keep these vehicles. They're good vehicles, they're awesome engines. The best thing you can do, the lifeblood, just keep it fresh. All right, bit of lubrication in the drive shaft, that's good. Underneath, got the Dobinsons in the rear. This is a Grande, so it's got the airbags out and the coil spring conversion. And this is the most reliable way, and what you should perhaps change your vehicle to if you've got airbags in a 120. If you want reliability, it's going to give you the part number. Right, there was a guy on wherever AMTS 4x4, and he was selling these springs. He was hard to get a hold of, so we went to King Springs. These are the springs they had. We did 3 sets recently, and then they said they don't make them anymore. So if anybody else wants rear springs, these, I've just seen it come up at a good height. This is the one that I'd recommend. Apparently they've got a different one that's not as heavy duty. It's maybe a 102 DAB, not a HDB or something like that. Slightly different. Might not end up quite high enough, more like a 30mm lift. So then you might need a 20mm spacer at the top. We'll work on that. Rear brakes are all right. No, all right. Can't even speak properly. Rear axle, all the bearings and everything. No oil leaks here. Everything looks all right. Both sides. Plenty of brake pads there. I had a look at the rear trailing arm, the upper trailing arms. We can get in there, see they're a bit twisted. They're not too bad. That could look, some workshops will say, oh, you need new bushers, but it's mainly because the vehicle's up on the hoist and they're slightly twisted, and it just shows you a bit of twist stress, but they're not really bad. But then they don't all look like that. See the bottom ones like this, they're not twisting as much. So anyway, they never need replacing. So if someone tells you need rear lower control arm bushers or something, I'd be concerned, because that's not what we see. Let's have a look at these ones in here. Right, they look pretty good. They're just a bit twisted. Not much else to see. We'll have a bit more of a look around under the bonnet. As I said, this one's on gas. Right, the old gas, haven't seen a gas system for a while. There's the old compressor and everything for the air suspension. That's what that's all about. Just having a bit of a look around. I know you like looking around, so I'm going to shut up and not talk for a while. This fuel hose, mate, can you please come and squeeze this fuel hose for the video? So he's had it, so 4 years you've owned the car, yeah? Hasn't replaced the fuel hose in 4 years, so I'm guessing it's been replaced previously, because the petrols do go really hard and crack first, and obviously leaking unleaded is quite dangerous. For it to be that soft after 4 years of petrol going through there, so I believe that it must have been changed previously. And this leads me to believe that they must have changed the compound that it lasts or works better, which is why we haven't seen any leaking in the 150 Prados. So 4 years old and it's still nice and soft. Thanks for that, mate. I don't think there was anything else to see under here, so we'll have a bit of a look. So there's a new rear mount on the transmission by the looks of it, yeah. Okay, and engine mounts as well. Yep. That's about it, I think. All right, so quick chit chat under here. Petrol engine, you know, normal oil changes, oil filter changes. You got your air filter in there, pretty straightforward. You can still, you know, find other work to do, but spark plugs, you know, down there, core per cylinder. So unplug it, coil pack off with a 10mm and spark plugs and all that. Might sound simple, but people still stuff it up. So be careful if you're going to do that. This is the obvious complicated brake master cylinder for the traction control. Usually fairly reliable, although expensive to replace, so be careful of that. On the V6s, the water pumps still leak like any other vehicle. This one we haven't spotted that at this stage, and there's a number of pulleys down there you can see middle of the picture that have bearings that can get noisy and regularly need those bearings or pulleys replaced. But because of the gas conversion was the main thing here, whenever there's a gas conversion, you've got to keep an eye on things. So all these aftermarket clamps and hoses, and they put things they sort of don't think it through that well. So I was having a bit of a look around here and all the usual stuff. And down here, not a big deal, I suppose, but you know, we found it's going to be hard to see, but right in the middle of the picture, try and get the light in there first, try and get it to focus in there. I don't know if this is going to work out, probably not. Anyway, clamp way down in there, so that clamp there, that was the sharp side of it, right? There's a sharp side to the clamp, was around the other way in the heater hose. There's no way I can get a camera in there, and it has cut into the heater hose, the outer layer through to the braiding kind of thing. So that heater hose, we've spun the clamp around so it doesn't get any worse, but that hose, in my opinion, will need to be replaced. You can't rely on that anymore. So we're going to spend a bit more time having a look around all these extra wires and bits and pieces around. As I said, you've got to watch the aftermarket stuff, same old story. Hopefully you learnt something out of this one. Not a lot to say. It doesn't matter whether it's a petrol or a bloody diesel or whatever engine. The vehicle's much the same, similar sort of maintenance. Pros and cons, obviously, of all the engines. They've all got their pitfalls. This one, make sure your coolant is very clean. I'd recommend changing it every couple of years as a maximum. It's an all alloy engine, and if you start getting corrosion in there, it can ride off the engine. And of course, regular oil changes, because these oil pickups can block just from a lack of oil changes or not enough oil changes. All right, we're out of here. Catch ya.